I'm Maya.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to our mini-series on going out of programme.
It's actually been a very, very positive experience. Since starting as a doctor, this has been one of my favourite jobs or rotations that I've done. The number of things I've learned is incredible. I thought I knew a little bit about PN. I get there, realise I don't know anything. But that's been really nice.
We wanted to create a series not only to learn more about what opportunities are available out of programme, but hopefully to answer some of the more practical questions you may have.
Things like how and when to apply, challenges with salary, and how to keep up endoscopy skills. So with nearly a third of registrars going out programme at some point in their training, it's becoming a very popular option.
In this mini-series, we've handpicked a great selection of registrars to tell us more about their fellowships.
After the rigid training that we're used to, what's so exciting is the flexibility and the variation within out of programme.
And hopefully our podcast reflects this. To start off episode 1, we'd like to welcome Lucy, a gastro SD7 registrar who's kindly offered to speak to us today. She's currently halfway through a 1-year nutritional fellowship in St Mark's in Cambridge.
Hi Lucy, so if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are in your training.
So I'm Lucy, gastro registrar in the Kent, Surrey, Sussex deanery. I've paused my training and taken a year out to do something, well, slightly different, still obviously very gastro related, and applied to do what used to be a nutrition national training number 1-year programme or advanced training programme. As the curriculum in our training's changed to 4 years, that doesn't exist in the same way, but the job is still available, and it's 2 placements, one at St Mark's in London in the intestinal failure side of things with patients on home parental nutrition, and then the second 6 months, which I'm starting next month, is so linked with it at Addenbrooke's in Cambridge, and that will be working with the intestinal transplant side of things.
Nice.
Intestinal transplant, I mean, I can hardly say it, but it does sound very interesting. Lucy, I guess if you could just tell us about why you applied for this out of programme nutrition fellowship year.
I think, so being on a 5-year programme, I think it became really obvious from the beginning that's not long enough to get everything done, so to speak. I think when we all become consultants, I think, we shouldn't be under an illusion that we're going to know everything, but, common themes have been an issue for a long time. So, not getting your endoscopy numbers, not seeing this, not seeing that, not having experience in certain things. So I'd already asked people that I'd worked with, and it seemed like everybody took some time out. So I already sort of had that seed planted. And as things are sort of been ticking along, time's running away, I'm thinking, actually, is there a race to really finish this training? I mean, I've been a doctor now for 12 years. What's another year or two really going to add to it? They're very keen now for us all to have a subspecialty interest, which I wasn't so aware of when I started my training. So really what it came down to was just having a think about the subspecialties, which ones I liked, which ones I knew about, which ones I didn't. And in terms of nutrition, I mean, the word nutrition can mean so much to so many different people. I sort of just had a bit of a think, what does that mean? What does it entail? And actually got chatting to someone in my deanery who I've never met, but I reached out to her by email because I've noticed she'd send a lot of nutrition training days, courses. And I just emailed her just to have a chat. And I was really lucky. She just went above and beyond. She rang me. We talked about different subspecialties. She told me about the job I'm doing. And I just thought, it sounds like a great job. Even if I don't know necessarily what I'd like my subspecialty to be as time goes on, this job seems like a great opportunity to learn a lot, see a lot, and I think just become more well-rounded as a clinician.
So I guess you alluded to the fact that you didn't want to rush through training and can afford to take time out. Was there anything specifically that made you want to take it now in your training instead of, I suppose, post-CCT or a bit earlier?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think if you want to do, so this job I'm doing, I've gone in, honestly, not knowing very much about parental nutrition at home, the complications of. But I think what has really helped is that I've had enough gastro experience that, the types of patients that I'm looking after, so the underlying etiology is a lot of Crohn's, it's a lot of cancer, it's ischemic bowel, there's dysmotility patients. I've had the experience of looking after them in clinic, on the ward for a few years. So, okay, fine, I'm trying to learn about all the PN side of things, but actually the underlying etiology, that's where I'm like, okay, I actually know what to do with managing how to treat that. So I think in hindsight, I think it's a good time to do it because I've built up some experience and understanding of what's going on. And it's also just a nice time to have a break from, you know, some of the stresses that you have. For example, I'm not doing any general medicine this year. I quite enjoy general medicine. I know we always talk about sort of we do too much of it, but in terms of when I'm doing it's nice, but it's so stressful, isn't it, holding that bleep all the time. So actually this year is quite nice knowing that I've got quite a different set of challenges. So it's just quite a nice break before I then go back and have to do that bit again for the last hurdle.
Amazing. And how's the job going? Is there anything that you found particularly challenging?
Yeah, I think on the whole, it's been fantastic. Like, I'd really, really recommend everyone to do this job. Even, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like nutrition. I don't really know why that is or what that means, because it's actually fascinating, this job in particular. So it's very, very MDT focused. There are much less doctors on the team than there are of everyone else. You've got your specialised pharmacists, a big army of dietitians, nutrition nurses. See, every hospital, you know, you're normally used to there being one or two. We've got about 6 or 7 at our hospital. They all come to clinic with you. So it's great. So actually, doctors wise, in that big team, there's 3 consultants at our site, a couple at the other site. There's myself, there's 1 deanery registrar, and there's 1 SHO. That's it. There's no other doctors. So that's it's not a challenge, it's just a different way of working and learning how to slot in with those different team members. But actually, I've loved that, and it's a big positive to learn how other people work. And when we're in clinic and they all come with you, half the time I'm being led by the dietitians when they're saying, should we increase the sodium in the PN? I'm like, yeah, of course, let's do that. So I think, yeah, going into something quite open-minded, because it is a world, like before I started, I thought I knew a little bit about PN. I get there, realise I don't know anything. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, just accepting that you're going into a world where you probably don't know that much. But that's been really nice. And it's been I felt quite comfortable accepting that I'm starting from scratch. And actually I'm coming to the end of this 6 months, like the number of things I've learned is incredible. You know, wherever I end up as a consultant, I think everything I've picked up will be so, so helpful. It's actually been a very, very positive experience. And I'd say since starting as a doctor, this has been one of my favourite sort of jobs or rotations that I've done, which is partly sort of the work I'm doing, partly the team that I'm working with. I am aware when I go to Addenbrooke's, though, I really will be out of my depth. I don't really know anything about intestinal transplantation.
Does anyone?
Yeah, I'd probably say I only became aware of it in the last few years. But again, I'm quite excited to go and learn something new. It's sort of once in a lifetime opportunity to go and be involved with something like that. So yeah, I'll have to keep you posted on that one.
So this year, have you had to keep a portfolio?
Yes, that's a really interesting one. I naively assumed I wouldn't, but my consultant, my supervisor, who's really organised and really proactive and just a great person to teach and help you make the most of your experiences, very much assured me that I do need to continue my portfolio. So the idea with my job is that I do actually complete assessments during the year, 1 at St Mark's and 1 at Addenbrooke's, and do like a multi-source feedback when I'm there at both jobs. But I think I would say, although I'm doing that, it's really not as onerous as it feels sometimes in training. So I've got my list, all the things I need to check off, and actually sitting down with her in the first month, I've realised I've pretty much seen everything that needs to be ticked off. So it's not a difficult one to achieve. I think it just comes down to you as the individual doing those assessments. So from that side of things, I was a little bit surprised I'm still doing portfolio, but it really hasn't been a big ask. And it's things that I'm interested in doing, so it's quite easy.
God, mini kexes are going to haunt us forever, aren't they?
Absolutely, exactly.
I guess now we also need to ask about endoscopy. Do you have endoscopy practice available during the fellowship?
Yeah, so that's, I think, a really important thing to think about when you are going out of programme. The good thing about this job, they're very clear about what the expectations are for you coming along to do the job. So at St Mark's, I'm really lucky. I have 2 lists a week, which is great. Whereas the deanery registrars are sort of rotated in here and there, different lists. I have the same 2 lists every week with my consultants from my attachment, which is actually a really nice way to train. It's great being in rotations where you're working with lots of different consultants, but actually working with the same consultant each week, there's massive benefits to doing that in terms of learning how they train, they learn how you learn. We quite commonly are scoping our patients from our nutrition clinic. When their patients come in the room, they know our consultant, they might have even met me on the ward or something. It's just such a nicer experience. And then I'm getting to do sort of, those sort of nutrition related procedures. So whether that's inserting gastrostomy tubes, NJ tubes for the ward. So they're quite varied lists. A lot of our patients have stomas with their short bowel. So we might be doing a scope via their jejunostomy to get some information. And then it's quite nice for our patients on our ward. So our ward is the majority of patients are initiating home parenteral nutrition, or they've come in with a complication of it, like a line infection. But it's quite easy for us to, we're setting someone up on home PN, they're going to need some continuity surgery later down the line. Let's just bring them up on our list, put the camera through the stoma and just see how everything's looking. So it's quite nice to be able to have that continuity and that ongoing rapport with your patient. That's been really great. I'd say in terms of like your numbers, generally speaking, for OGD and colonoscopy, it is definitely there and available. Just, it's mixed lists, so that opportunity is there. Going on to Addenbrooke's, however, they've been quite, again, upfront. Their endoscopy is not at the forefront of that rotation, and that's fine. But as I say, that's not the main focus of this job. So actually doing it out of programme as an extra year is absolutely fine. And I think having my 2 endoscopy lists a week at the moment has just been an added bonus, really.
Yeah.
The other thing that's been really good, which I haven't mentioned, is at St Mark's, you have the opportunity to be on the GI bleed rota. So I think, depending on where you train, you don't always have that opportunity. I think now in the curriculum, we're sort of meant to have that opportunity. And I'm sure as time goes by, that will be implemented a bit more. But this job has meant that for these 6 months, you can opt in or opt out. It's not compulsory. So I've opted in to be on the GI bleed rota just to get that extra experience, which of course I'm going to need.
Nice.
How do you feel that this year has impacted your future career? Do you feel like you're very much set down the nutrition pathway route, or do you feel that actually it's just opened a couple more doors?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think it's kept things very positive for me, in that I feel like I'm learning loads, I'm becoming more well-rounded. It's, there's some things here I've never even heard of, which is probably quite important that I have heard and have learnt about. In terms of the future, I think it opens doors, I think is the right way to say. So I think that all comes down to sort of people's personal wishes for sort of how they see their future as a gastroenterologist. So I'm probably at the stage where I'm trying to decide, I'm really enjoying the job. Would I see myself doing something like this where you're working in a regional PN centre? Or do I see myself working at a district general hospital and perhaps being the lead for nutrition there? So that's, again, something just for me to think about. But I think either of those scenarios, this job makes me very well equipped to do either. You never know, maybe I'm going to go to Cambridge and, then I'll be telling you that I now want to work in transplant medicine. And who knows, maybe I will. It's something I've not had the opportunity to do before at any stage of my training. So I think it just really opens doors. I think if you did this job and it wasn't for you, or you didn't enjoy it for some reason, I still think there's a lot to get out of it.
Nice. That's a really positive way of looking at it. I like that. And finally, is there any advice that you give to others thinking of doing a fellowship?
I would strongly recommend that everyone should do it. You have nothing to lose by taking a year out of programme with whatever it is that you may want to do. And it doesn't just have to be 1 year, take as many as you feel you need or want. I think it's a really good opportunity just to pause training, to think about what not just medically, but what have I achieved, what have I not yet achieved, what do I want, what do I not want? And it just gives you a bit of time, I think, just to breathe a little bit and just think a bit more about when you're in the middle of training, you're doing F1, F2, you're doing IMT, you're doing registrar training. Yeah, you may have some breaks in between, but it's just go, 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 go. And I don't think we have a lot of time to pause and just think about what it is that we're sort of looking for or wanting to do. So it's really nice from that side of things. And I think, with a 4-year training programme, I don't think it is enough time to get everything done and to, really get to grips with things, with the general medicine component as well. So I think it's just a nice opportunity to do something for yourself that you want to do, to give you that extra experience. And yeah, that experience doesn't necessarily have to be something, medical, but I'm sure it'll be something that, propels you forward when you then finish the rest of training or become a consultant. So that was a very long waffly answer, but I think my answer is that everyone should do one because they are really fun and really helpful for your career.
That was really brilliant. Thank you so, so much, Lucy.
Was there anything else that you think we haven't asked that you wanted to get across?
No, I think my main thing to get across is that I think, people should really think about taking time out of programme to do various things, whether it is something like a clinical fellowship like I'm doing, research, something completely different. I think it just helps everybody with their sort of growth, development, to then, be the best gastroenterologists that they can be.
What a great way to finish the episode. A massive thanks to Lucy. It was super interesting, and I'm sure you've inspired some people to apply for this fellowship.
Yeah, actually hadn't been on my radar, but certainly will be after today.
So it's worth mentioning that the BSG are updating their endorsed fellowships to include nutritional fellowships. So if you're interested, definitely have a look on their website under the Workforce tab. We will see you on the next episode, where we will be speaking to Wenhao Lee about his observership in the US.
Oh, interesting. If you've enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends.
Spread the word.
See you next time.